Do you feel like you're losing yourself trying to save someone you love from substance abuse? You're not alone, and I can help. I'm Jason Coombs, and each week I go live to share powerful insights, frameworks, tips, and strategies that I've learned and that my parents earned the hard way so you don't have to. Trust me, there is hope for your addicted loved one and for you. Click the link in the show notes to join me live, and it won't cost you a dime. See you there.
Welcome to the Get Unhooked podcast with Jason Coombs, where experience meets insight. Jason Coombs, nationally recognized speaker, best-selling author, and founder of Brickhouse Recovery, shares hard-earned lessons on resilience, leadership, addiction, and mental health. No filters, no fluff, just real stories, practical wisdom, and a deeper look at what it takes to grow, lead, and keep moving forward. Now here's your host, Jason Coombs.
So today we got a lot of good stuff, a lot of meat that we're going to cover today. So we're just going to dive right on in. This is the masterclass, which means we are going to go deep, quick. And that's why I said you don't want to miss any of the weeks. You don't want to miss the homework. You don't want to miss the recording. You want to make sure that you stay on top, because this is where a lot of the liberation comes. Is, as I mentioned last week, we reviewed the powerlessness. We reviewed the things that you can and can't control. We talked specifically about the disease, this being a disease, not a moral failing, not a choice issue. This is an actual diagnosis that's listed in the American Society of Addiction Medicine and the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Illness as a legitimate brain disease. And so when we see it through those lenses, we're able to separate our loved one from the disease. Yesterday at Brickhouse, I was sharing with all of our clients at all three locations, well, 4 locations, because we have a telehealth program, and was talking to them about the importance that they learn how to separate their disease from who they are, because their disease is the one that is reinforcing shame constantly. And so I shared with them the little story about me in my 5th treatment center when I named my disease, and I named him Sancho, inspired by a song from Sublime that I used to listen to. And the line goes, "I'll pop a cap in Sancho," which was like my idea of, I'm going to battle him every day, and he's the enemy. So my disease is my enemy. It's important that my clients yesterday, that they learned that they're spiritually anorexic when they are in their disease. And the idea is to feed the spirit, to feed that anorexia through the principles, the actions, and the steps that are recovery related, so that their disease, in my case, Sancho, begins to lose power, and our strength on a spiritual side begins to grow. And what's really powerful about that is there's a promise in the recovery literature that I've found to be true and know to be true, is that when we straighten out, or when we focus on our spiritual condition, we begin to straighten out mentally and physically. And this reinforces the understanding that this is a disease. And when we, just like any other disease, when we approach it from a spiritual place, not only are we able to separate the disease from the person, we have more patience when their symptoms flare up. We have more patience when it's difficult, when they're behaving in a way that is, especially if they're not interested in doing anything to treat their spiritual anorexia or treat their disease or treat their mental illness. And you see them spiraling. It can be so frustrating. It can be so gut-wrenching at times, because you just want to wring their neck, just like my mom. She wanted to wring mine and like, wake me up. Like, how are you breaking this promise after you just swore up and down, hours ago that you were never going to use again, and now you're locked up because you just relapsed. Like, that's how quickly things happen. So in the I think that's probably a pretty good intro. We talked about the importance last week of putting on your oxygen mask. I shared that example of that flight that ended up crashing and killing every passenger because there was one missing line in the manual that the pilots should put on the oxygen mask first before they start troubleshooting. And I liken that to the goldfish model. So if the goldfish metaphor or the goldfish framework is new to you, I'm going to just remind those of you that have heard me share about this, but also if this is new to you, to make sure that we cover this, because I reference it often. Imagine, remember back when you would go to the fair as a kid, or maybe you just took your grandkids to the fair this last fall, and they come home, they got little goldfish in a baggie, and they put the fish in a bowl. And at first, like, the water's clean, everybody's happy. But a few days later, you begin to see, well, not only does the fish start to get neglected because the excitement wore off, and the kids start to have other interests, which is the case every time we get a reptile or a fish or something. And then the cage or the bowl or the aquarium is always left to the parents to clean, it seems like. But you remember, like, how murky the water starts to get, and then this scum and, like, stuff starts to get on the glass, and it begins to look gross. And we don't approach a situation like the goldfish dirty water by taking the fish out, rinsing off the fish, and then putting it back in the water. Like, that doesn't make any sense to us, right? But we do that if we relate that to, if we can just get our addicted loved one, like, to rehab. If we just get him in or get her in, they'll get rinsed off, they'll shape up, and then they come back into the same environment or a similar environment. And I'm not talking about the living situation. I'm talking about the dynamics within the family and the roles that we each play. And those roles have a face. And it's true to this day for me, where even at 17 years in recovery, when I am around all of my siblings and my nephews and my nieces and my mom, I naturally fall into this role where I don't even know that I'm doing it, but I notice, like, little mannerisms and a little avoidance, and I've come a long way. But the old me was, I was like the kid in the sibling, in the sibling group. They would all be sitting around at the dinner table they're all physicians now, and they were going through med school as I was in my disease. So they would talk about things that I could care less about biology and medicine. But to them, it was all really important. And they would talk about adult things. And I would go find my nieces and nephews who were all really young, and I'd play with them, just avoiding, I would avoid anything that was, that had to do with the sibling conversation, because I didn't want the focus to be on me. And I just felt colossally uncomfortable. So, but I find myself still doing that today. Like, I default to this role of not being smart enough, not being the only one who isn't a doctor in the family, being the only one who, went through substance use disorder and treatment and all of the things. Even though I'm a completely different person, it's amazing how that role still shows up for me. And you think about your own life, like, that will play out in your own dynamic with your loved one. Like, you might be showing up one way, and then your addicted loved one comes on the scene, and your role changes in your head. Like, you may not even notice, but you start to see some behaviors that weren't there prior to them showing up on the scene, right? So the Goldfish Framework is the importance of cleaning the bowl, cleaning the environment, taking accountability, our part in what that environment looks like, what that dynamic looks like between us and our addicted loved one, between us and our other family members. And then we go to work. which is exactly what you are doing here. We're cleaning the bowl. But first what we're doing is we are getting well. We're getting healthy. We're getting new perspectives. So that's the Goldfish Framework. And there's a whole like step process of how to clean the bowl, which is what we're in the middle of right now. Like these 6 weeks is that process. So you're smack in the middle of the Goldfish Framework. Congratulations. I'm not just going to take you out and rinse you off and then drop you right back in. My commitment is to help you transcend what it is that you are struggling with. And so today the focus is going to shift away from your addicted loved one, and it's going to go into looking deep within ourselves, which I promise you that if you're willing to go into this cave, you will find the treasure you seek. Joseph Campbell once said, "The cave we fear to enter holds the treasure we seek." And I believe that because a lot of times we don't think we even need to go in the cave. There's nothing in there for us. But when we face our own denial, we face our own dragons, and we are willing to embrace that part of ourselves and learn to love that part of ourselves and become aware of that part of ourselves, then we're in a position to influence not just our addicted loved one, but we're able to influence so many others in our lives, which is the whole point, is for you to transform who you are and become the next version of yourself, and to have a new story, to write a new story, a new chapter, like closing this chapter, opening up a new chapter in your life, even if your addicted loved one stays exactly the same. And that's exciting. That should give you some hope. That should give you might be saying, well, Jason, that's great, but I'm really here because I just want my addicted loved one to change. Like if they will, then everything's fine. But remember, it's about the whole system and relationship, the water, the bowl, the fish, the factors that are contributing to the struggle and what perpetuates the distance and what perpetuates the resistance and what perpetuates the unattraction of wanting to take your advice and the unattraction to the dance, which we're going to talk about today, the dance or the drama triangle, and how we get sucked into this 3-step waltz or 3-step dance. And it's difficult. Before we do that, what I'd really like to do is I'd like to take a minute or two and do some box breathing, as I mentioned, and really get into a space where if you are like me, I need to do little things throughout the day, particularly in the morning, that help me with anxiety. And look, I have anxiety just because my eyes open. It's not like there's anxiety because I'm worried about something. Like I'm not worried about being with you guys. This is actually my bliss. This is the thing I would rather do than anything else, is work with you. But I have anxiety right now, just like I do every morning. Even when I go through, like drinking my water, making sure I've got electrolytes, getting some protein, doing a little well, I didn't get my exercise in this morning, but I will. But box breathing is one of those that helps me when I start to feel my mind race and I start to feel anxiety, or I feel like I'm going to need to control something. So let's do some of that. How box breathing works is a 4-count breathe in, and then there's a 4-count hold. So think of the box, 4-count up, hold for 4, and then release for 4, and then hold for 4, and then we do it again. Okay. So we'll do that. Let's do a round of 5. We'll go 5 boxes. There's no rhyme or reason to 5. I just picked that. Okay. So I'll lead it. Let's go. Breathe in and feel free to close your eyes. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 4. Release for 4. Hold for 4. In Hold. Release. Hold. In. Hold. Release. Hold. In. Hold. Release. Hold. In. Hold. Release. Now I want to hold for 30 seconds at the bottom. Now a big, huge breath, fill up your lungs all the way to the top and hold for 30 seconds. Now release. So these are little tips and tricks that when you're feeling like you're going sideways, then you can apply these little tools. And so the water in the morning, drinking water throughout the day, getting a little protein in the morning before you hit the caffeine or the coffee. It's always a good idea to set your system up for success before it starts running on caffeine. And then the box breathing is another one. Next week, we're all going to get into an ice bath for 3 minutes. So be ready for that. You're like, no way. No, thank you. But that is one of my go-tos. But anyone that wants to do that challenge, I invite you to it. But I was kidding about next week. Okay. Can you all see the importance of doing this work, of going back there to remember because when you think of what we're trying to do is to breathe life and nourishment to that 5-year-old boy or girl that is spiritually anorexic, that's never grown up, that's still in there, but is forgotten. And that will alter how we set boundaries, that will alter and influence how we communicate, how we operate, how we love, how we show empathy, how we show tough love, how we stay off the beach. This is the emotional raincoat. It's by recognizing that we could still hold our loved ones near and dear, close to our hearts, and wrap the raincoat around us both, while the disease is the storm and just drips right off. Now, a lot of the work that we do in recovery is based on a framework which you are all familiar with, is the 12-step model. And the importance of weaving the 12 steps into the masterclass is that you get exposure and a reminder of how it's so applicable to us as helpers, as family members. The first 2 steps are what we discussed last week, which is, I'm powerless. We admitted we were powerless over addiction or alcoholism or the chaos of someone's addiction. and our lives become unmanageable. It's that ownership of like, okay, I can't do this alone. I need help, which is why all of you are here investing in this experience, is with that admission. And the second is there must be a power that I can access. And that power, it's coming to believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. And how I interpret that is there is a pathway that will help me get to the goal that I have. Then I can do this. If I can rally around others, if I can lean into Jason, I can lean into the principles in Unhooked, I can lean into Stacy and Francis, I can lean into this cohort, this community, I can do this. And that right there is enough of a power that's greater than doing it alone, because I do know that God works among us and through us. So today it's looking beyond to steps 3 and 4 and how that relates to, making the decision to surrender, making a decision to look deep within ourselves. The cave we fear to enter holds the treasure we seek. So it's going into the cave. The step 3 is just making the decision. It's not actually going in. It's like I heard it said in early sobriety, is like, if you have 3 frogs on a log and one decides to jump in, how many do you have left on the log? And I was like, well, that's easy. 3 minus 1 is 2. I said, no, it's still 3, because the frog didn't jump, it just decided to. It's still on the log. And so the step 3 is just making a decision like, okay, this morning, today, right now, I'm going to turn my loved one over into the care of a power greater than me. I'm going to turn the addiction over to a power greater than me. And I am a firm believer that the prayers of my parents are what brought miracles into my life. It was when they stopped trying to run my life and they said, Heavenly Father, this is your son. He is sick. We have tried. We can't do this. Take him. Do what you do. Help us stay out of the way and let us know if there's anything we should do. And it was kind of that surrender. It was like, take him. He's your kid too. And that was a big decision for them, because then that they were released of all feeling the responsibility that they had to turn my life around. They had to change me. And it's making a decision to turn it all over to a loving Father in heaven that is just as mindful of the 6-year-old as he is of you, and just as mindful of her needs and your son's needs, and letting the natural consequences and taking the long game perspective and view, like, okay, it sucks right now, but this might be when the miracle happens. But if not, that's okay, because it's in preparation. There will be a day in this life or the next where our loved ones will be free. And I believe that they'll have to reconcile, of course, with their creator. But I'm so much more hopeful than a lot of the narratives I hear out there. Like, they got to figure it out. They got to change now or else they're going to hell. Like, I just don't buy in to that. I don't subscribe to that. I believe in a much more beautiful, loving, long game that understands mental illness, that understands addiction, that understands shame, that understands abuse and trauma and all of the factors that play into what fuels the struggle their loved ones are in. And that is the decision that we're making in step 3. And it's the making of the decision to go on to step 4, which is entering the cave and looking at going in with a big, huge flashlight, massive flashlight, spotlight, and going deep into the crannies and the crevices where there are cobwebs and there's mold growing and it's dank and dark, and it's looking into ourselves and shining light on those areas, maybe areas that have never seen the light of day in a long, long time. And our disease dies in the daylight. Our struggles and pains, dies in the daylight. It's the sickness that grows in secret. It is the sickness that grows in, and stress grows in these places that we're unaware of. And that's what this week is all about. Now, so this is the drama triangle. Okay. It was first named by a psychologist. The drama triangle was first named by a psychologist named Stephen Karpman in the 1960s. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, especially when you understand it. So 3 corners and 3 roles. Every family touched by addiction lives somewhere on this triangle. And so I want to walk you through each one, starting with the one on the top left, the rescuer. The rescuer says, I will fix this. I will smooth it. I will anticipate the next crisis so it doesn't happen. I will pay the bill. I will write the email. I'll call your boss. I will cover the lie. I will give you the money. I'll give you I'll cook you the meal. The rescuer looks like a hero, and the rescuer is exhausted because heroism requires that the disaster keep happening. So take that in. Heroism requires that the disaster continues. If you are the rescuer, your identity depends on the chaos continuing. You will tell yourself you want it to end. You will pray for it to end. And underneath, some part of you will keep choosing situations that need rescuing because that is the role you know how to play. Now, that's not a moral failing. It's a pattern. So it's just as important to separate ourselves from the roles that we play, just like the 2 letters that we wrote, separating the disease from our loved one. This is separating our patterns from who we are. And the pattern can change once you see them. Then on the top right, we have the persecutor. And the persecutor says, how could you do this to me? After everything I've done, after everything I've given, you are killing this family. You're destroying our marriage. You're destroying your life. You're destroying your kids. You're ruining your life. And you're watching me grieve while you do it. You're doing this to me. The persecutor is critical and dominating and blaming. And the persecutor weaponizes love. So think about that. The persecutor weaponizes love. The words are usually true, but the energy's not. It's shame. It's not love. It's shame. The persecutor leaves the room with the addicted loved one feeling smaller, not safer. And when an addicted person feels smaller, that perpetuates using more, not less, because that is what the disease feeds on. It's like cancer feeds on sugar, addiction feeds on shame. And you may have been the persecutor without knowing it. Most of us have. The mark of it is not the volume of your voice. The mark of it is what you leave behind when the conversation ends. Okay. So the bottom, the role is the victim, helpless, dependent, self-pitying. The victim says, I cannot. I'm too tired. Look at what they've done to me. Look at what I have lost. I'm the one who's suffering here. I cannot do one more thing. And the victim's pain is real. And the victim's pain is also a position. It's a pattern. It says, my suffering is the loudest thing in the room, so the responsibility for fixing it is not mine. It belongs to whoever caused it. It belongs to whoever is supposed to save me. And the victim refuses the work because the victim's identity has become the suffering. And oftentimes it's easier to see this in other people than it is in ourselves. And if your suffering is who you are, then healing feels like death. Think about it. If suffering is like a drug, then why would I want that to go away? Because that's the pattern. That's what's feeding. Well, it's feeding all these other roles as well. So here's what nobody will tell you is you don't pick one role and stay in it. You vacillate and rotate through. You start in the morning as the rescuer, You make the breakfast, you pack the lunch, you text the boss, you hide the bottle. And by lunch, you've become the persecutor. You snap at them across the kitchen or in a text message. You bring up everything that they've done. You list the betrayals and it's pointed. And by dinner, you've collapsed into the victim and you're crying alone in your car in the driveway, asking how you ended up here, asking what you did to deserve this. All three, same day, same person, a pattern, not you, but your pattern. And that's the drama triangle. Can you see it? And if you're thinking, well, Jason, that's not me, just sit with it for a minute and instead of dismissing it, ask the question, where might this show up in another relationship that I have? Maybe it's not with my addicted loved one. Maybe it's in my marriage. Maybe it's at work. Maybe it's with my boss. This pattern exists in the workplace. This pattern exists in a lot of dynamics. So awareness is the first step out. You cannot leave the triangle or the cycle if you don't know you're standing in it. Okay. So where we go into the drama triangle page, there's 3 spaces where you'll have room to write. And and each one is for each role. And what I'd like to do right now is I want to take a little vow of silence, because this is a good time to take a vow. Hopefully you all have a pen handy or a piece of paper handy, and you can just begin to write this out and list the rescuer, the persecutor, and the victim. Okay. And with your pen and your paper, I want you to write one specific moment from the past week in each role. And it's okay to sit with it. You don't have to have the answer right now. The idea is in the vow, you're seeking. It might come at minute 9. It might come later today. You might be reminded of it. The idea is to seek and let it come to you. Don't force the memory, but think of what specific moment in the past week did I play this specific role? Okay. Not, I rescue him sometimes, like the specific text message or the specific check you wrote or bill you paid or the specific dinner that you cooked or the specific lie, the moment when you stood in the kitchen and you were in that role. And it's okay, as I mentioned, if you cannot remember the moment for one of those roles, this is just information. So you just want to sit with it. And hopefully this is a question you will ask yourself as a habit each and every day. Where am I playing the rescuer in my life? Where am I playing the persecutor? Where am I playing the victim? Okay. If you can't see it in yourself, it's okay. Just sit with it. All right. So, and I'll play a little meditation music. everybody. You may still be working on your answers, but more than anything, I hope it was nice to just reflect. And how often do you take time to reflect on these deeper questions? If you're like me, it's not often, because there's always something at my fingertips, or there's something that I need to be doing. And vows of silence are the magic secret sauce to recovery. And they're the secret sauce to living unhooked and feeling the freedom that is available to all of us. So just remember that throughout the week. The goal here is for someone who is expressing awareness, like you just did, my hope is to highlight progress and areas that you are doing things well. If there's someone that I'm talking to that's completely oblivious to their role in any of it, and they're not willing to look at where they played into the dynamic, just in denial, then I'm a little bit more direct of like, let me help you see those areas that you're contributing. So as I hold this up to you, like, your awareness is the goal. Your awareness is the destination. Your awareness is the secret. It's not, well, now that I'm aware, I need to figure out like the best way to handle that next time. Or like, those introspections I think are important, but those dynamics and conversations are going to come up all the time. And you will wonder if you could have done that better. Could you have said that differently? And that is the gift, is just asking yourself the question, but not beating yourself up for the way it actually happened. I live in a state of step 10, which is promptly admitted when I'm wrong, like promptly admitting when I'm wrong and making amends as quickly as possible if I am wrong. Like if I stepped on somebody's toes, or if I said something to my wife or kids that wasn't kind, and so that reflection is the destination. It's not getting to a place where I'm doing all this perfectly, because that is unrealistic and frankly we'll never hit there. So the idea is like crossing the Goldilocks zone between the two extremes as often as possible. And the two extremes are, I'm completely oblivious to my part and I have no part in this. I'm not a rescuer. I'm not a persecutor. I'm not a victim. Like, that doesn't apply to me, which is one extreme. And the other extreme is, I am all these things. I suck. I need to do so much better. Like, I'm never going to, but those two extremes are both really unhealthy, and they're both prideful, really. One of them's haughty pride, which is, you should raise a statue of me because I can do no wrong. And the other one is, I'm the worst and I should, like, I'm less than the dust of the earth, blah, blah, blah. And I have no good. Like, both of them are prideful. One of them's perverse pride. One of them's haughty pride. And we're trying to get across that Goldilocks zone in the middle, where it's like, yeah, I have a lot of room for work, but like, just the awareness is the goal, you guys. Trust is earned. It is an asset. It's not given out for free. So it's something that I think a characteristic often of those of us that have this disease. I'm not saying it's exclusive to the disease, but I do know it's a common trait, is entitlement, and which it really comes down to the bondage of self, right? Is being self-absorbed, self-seeking. It's all like, we can't see past ourselves when we're in our illness, and when we get into recovery, oftentimes that's exacerbated, because it's like, it's all about us. And the hope is that, it changes over time. So anyway, I just wanted to validate the entitlement that your loved ones may experience, or that you experience with them. When our boundaries are non-existent, then we are left feeling manipulated. We're left feeling taken advantage of, and that results in, basically, we're disturbed, we're frustrated, which can be like the subtle, like, blend between, victim, this is happening to me, but it's like not looking at our part of we didn't set the boundary. It's looking at they're doing this and how are they doing this to me? So it's pointed. It's pointed at like, this is their fault. Like this is, it's them. They're the reason I'm in the situation I'm in. Right. And that shows up maybe not in a direct comment to them where it's, you know, you got your whip out and you're ready to tell them off. It's more of a subtle perspective of, because of you, I'm in this situation and I'm pissed. You know, I'm pissed. I'm pissed that I don't have the life that I thought that I would have because of you and because of them. So it can sometimes be couched in victim. At least this is all my opinion, my 2 cents. You can spend it how you want, but that's how these roles like are so insidious and sneaky, is that it can look one way and there's a layer that will actually be all 3 roles sometimes at once. I know that that's a little bit confusing, but this is an interesting, another quote by Brene Brown that is poignant, and it relates to the triangle. She says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. So you think about what that means. The risk of disappointing others by setting up our boundaries, that leads into this drama triangle. That leads into, because I don't want to disappoint them, I am going to do this for them. I'm going to, you know, the rescuer role. I'll do this for them. But there's subtle expectations that we put on them when we do something for them. Like, they didn't appreciate that I did that, or they don't see that I'm doing all this behind the scenes. Like, how dare they take advantage of me? How dare they take from me? Like, this is not cool. Like, I could be having a beautiful life if they weren't doing this to me. And then it's like that'll slide into victim, because I love how you Francis, held up just the stigma or meaning that we attach to labels, because victim is one that I never want to be seen as. I don't ever want to be seen as a victim. So I can couch it in other symptoms and other faces of that victimhood, which is interesting, because as I look back through how the drama triangle showed up in my life, as my wife has been going through her battle with cancer the last 3 years, it will, like my feelings of victim will sometimes manifest as bravado, that we got this, like we're going to beat this thing, like, or I'll chalk it off to spitting out some spiritual nomenclature, like, I will just have the faith and or I'll throw out, this is a one day at a time. And I just have these like recited words that will come through my mind, which on one hand, that can be good. So I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just, I'm aware, which is good. Like, that I'm aware that I have these talk tracks, and then I'll just say, oh, it's one day at a time's never meant so much to me, or never had so much meaning in my life. But what I'm really doing is I'm masking, because if I'm being real honest, like, cancer freaking sucks. And it's really like altered my entire life, as it has my wife, and seeing what it's doing to her. And like, you know, so I can get into the same triangle in a different dynamic in my family, all while I'm trying to avoid a label or being attached to a label. So like, being real honest with myself is like, where does the pattern show up? I don't have to own the label, but where does the pattern show up? Where does the pattern show up and manifest in these ways? And that's the gift, is really looking like, this is the cave. these are the crannies in the cave, the little cracks where the mold is growing in my life, and the cobwebs are, because if I don't go in and look, like, these are patterns that could continue to show up in all of my relationships. And then I'm left disturbed. I'm left frustrated. I'm left on this roller coaster of the drama triangle. Drama, which is I'm never really present in my own skin because I'm constantly living in a soap opera in my own brain and my own heart, struggling to find inspiration and struggling to find direction and struggling to find peace and struggling to find my footing. But when we're aware that we can slide into this, it's really empowering. It's this beautiful paradox of owning and being aware of the liabilities is where the strength is. Admitting the weakness is where the strength begins to be fed. It's the same coin, two sides. Like, my greatest weakness is also on the other side my greatest strength. My curse, chalk it off to anxiety. My curse of anxiety that I've had all my life, on the other side of that coin is my greatest superpower. Why? Because it propels me to take action. It propels me to do something. It propels me to exercise. It propels me to think about, I'm not feeling okay. I need to do some prayer. I need to do some meditation. I need to do some service. I need to drink some water. I need to get some protein. I need to do some breathing, like propelling myself into good action and good habits. Without anxiety, I don't know if I would have these habits. Without anxiety, we wouldn't be here today. I'll tell you right now, because I wouldn't have written Unhooked, my ADHD. Same coin. Is it a curse? Yes. But as I've learned to embrace the superpower that it actually is and flip that coin over, and then I'm able to really like harness it and hone it in. And that's the other reason why I really try to help us see the importance of embracing our weaknesses and superpowers by going into the cave and like looking at it, because what treasure we're actually looking for are our strengths. We go in looking for our liabilities. We go in looking for our patterns. We go in looking for our weaknesses. And what we discover is, on the other side of that coin, is unlocked greatness and potential and superpower. And that isn't a trite, fluffy comment. That is my experience, and that is what I believe to my core. That's why we do inventory. That is why this week's assignment, as we wrap up, this week's upcoming assignment is designed to invite you into that cave, looking for the mold, the cobwebs, the patterns, but do not go in with a club that you're going to use to beat yourself up. Go in with eyes open to just look at the facts, find the facts, look at the facts, embrace the facts. And then what we'll do with that is going to result in you being set free, because then you like, those are gurus to where your unlocked potential is you discover where you are weak, where you struggle, when you discover your character defects, as we call them in recovery. And on the other side of those coins are your character assets. And I believe that as we grow older, this is a life pursuit of unlocking, identifying, and developing our God-given gifts. And not one of us has arrived at identifying all of them and unlocked all of them and have developed all of them. Like each one of us have some that are still in there that we don't even know are there. And this work, over and over and over, doing this work over and over, is the quest. It's the search for the treasure. And it's always the cave that we fear to enter that holds the treasure we seek. And so that's why the fear is the guru. It's like the denial is the guru. It's the asking, like, of these three roles, which one do I not see in myself? Okay, it's the persecutor. Okay, that's the guru. That's where I need to go and do some more looking, because it's likely going to point me to the treasure that I'm seeking that's going to help me with the rescuing and the victim. This is where we're going to go in this next week. So there are a couple of things I want to make sure I touch on as we lead into the upcoming week. The first one is I'm going to invite you to take a personal experiment. What I'd like you to do is pick one thing that you're dependent on. Maybe for you, it's Diet Coke. Maybe it's coffee. Maybe it's yelling. Maybe it's something else. And I'm going to challenge you for 7 days to give it up. Is it sugar? Is it caffeine? Some of you are already starting to get it. Just the thought of giving up something you're probably going through, ooh, I should give that one up, but nope. Let me find something easier, right? We're already going through that. It's like, okay, pick one thing you rely on. A daily soda, morning coffee, your phone in bed at night, scrolling. Maybe it's sugar after dinner, the snooze button. Something you reach for without thinking. Something that if I asked you to give up for 7 days would make you flinch a little. Now, starting today, give it up for 7 days. And that is the whole assignment. And then I want you to write down your reflections on the experiment. Okay? Because I'm asking you to do this for a reason. Because you cannot fully understand what your loved one is up against until you have tried in your own body to say no to something that does not seem like a big deal. The bargaining you will do with yourself that you already probably are in your brain, like, I really should give up sugar, but nope, not that one. The deals that you will try to cut, the way your brain will rationalize the slip, the shame that shows up when you give in, all of it is information. And all of it is a window into the world your loved one lives in every single day. So pick your thing and tell yourself the start time and begin. And in the workbook, you'll write down what the thing is that you're giving up for 7 days, the start time and the date. Okay. And then I want you to track what you notice. Don't wait until the end of it. Like throughout the journey is the idea. So in the workbook, you'll be able to write down, like, what is it that you craved? When did you bargain? What were some of the healthier things that you replaced it with, or at least tried to? Okay. My question is, are you willing to do the very thing that we are hoping our addicted loved ones are willing to do? It's real. Okay. So that's the first assignment, which is probably the hardest one. The second one is, you will, if you haven't already received it, you will receive a supplemental step 4 workbook. Now, this one's going to take a little work every day. Okay. But I'll tell you that this is the work. This is the answer to the thing that you're giving up. So instead of just trying to white knuckle it for 7 days, what I will promise you that it is, if you dive into the work and you start to put your attention on not the thing that you gave up or quitting for 7 days, but you dive into the work, you will find protection and you will find freedom and you will find strength beyond your own. Okay. This is a little microcosm of what we do when we work with someone with an addiction. As they dive into the work, it's amazing what happens to their cravings. You will be going into the roles on a deeper level, including you'll be looking at some of the ego defense mechanisms that will give you more awareness and reflection time. And remember, the entire purpose of this worksheet is to gain awareness, to find the facts, to face the facts, and do not beat yourself up over the facts. This is just, I promise you that if you'll just trust me, that bringing all this stuff up might unsettle you a little bit. It might bring up some things for you, and that's okay. You might even get restless, irritable, discontent. You might even get a little ornery. That's okay. That's kind of the point, is gaining awareness. As you go in and look at these things, you'll begin to recognize that the power that the addiction has had over you is going to lessen as you get more and more into your own recovery work and deeper self-inventory and family patterns and personal patterns. So you'll get to look at where you're in denial. Where do you use minimization? Where do you use rationalization? Where do you project? Where do you use spiritualization? Which defense do you use most? So this will walk you through step by step, like patterns and taking an inventory, okay? And that's the work this week. Make this your number one priority, and I promise that if you do, it will bless all of the other areas in your life that you are juggling. Okay, so place your recovery first. This is the very thing that I'm asking your addicted loved ones, if they're in our care, or if they become in my world, I will ask them to put their recovery first. And they're like, but I have to work, or I have to coach my kids' games, or I have to this, or I have to that. And I always just ask, right now, this is a season where it's okay for you to give your families and yourself the best gift you could possibly give them, which is putting this first. And trust me, all the other areas in your life will be blessed in time, because this is the kind of work nobody pauses to do in the day-to-day. And that's why this is such a gift. Like, addiction can be such a gift, because if it points us to the work that sets us free, where we can reinvent ourselves and start a new chapter and write a new story for our lives. Like, without the addiction, we would have never had a reason to do this work. So trust the process. Hey, thanks for your time and attention today. Look, if this message gave you hope or clarity, hit all the 5 stars, subscribe, and share buttons to help the algorithms spread this message to more people in need. And don't forget, I go live every single week to share insights, frameworks, and real answers to your questions in real time. And you can join me for free. The link to register is in the show notes. You'll also find some info and treatment options and discounts to powerful resources like Warrior Heart Bootcamp for Men and Heart of a Woman Retreats for Ladies and Brickhouse Recovery in the show notes. You are not alone. There is hope, and I'm here to help you get unhooked.